Welcome into the Sunday No Huddle for the first time this season. We're joined by Robert Rosenthal from IlliniBoard.com for another year. Robert, thanks for being with us. We're less than a week away from kickoff. I guess, what have you seen from Bret Bielema and what he's been able to do since taking over the program?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is what we haven't seen. You know, he's being so secretive and trying to surprise Nebraska with his schemes that, you know, this game will be interesting. Or what will we learn? This is certainly something different from what other coaches did that, you know, open training camps and fans invited for 2 weeks and things like that. This has been more secretive and more we want every advantage against Nebraska that we can have. So it'll be interesting. You know, as I've said to friends, there's going to be moments in the Nebraska game of, wow, we didn't even know this was coming. We didn't even know that guy was starting. We didn't, you know, there's less information out there this year than many other years. So it'll be quite interesting to see what they try to maybe do to surprise Nebraska.
Sure, and given his previous stops at Arkansas and Wisconsin, given what we know about those kinds of teams, what do you think we can expect, if anything at all? Or he might just throw a curveball and not do anything he did at those schools.
Yeah, you would think he would follow some of the Wisconsin model. You think it would be some, you know, the run game was so important, and he emphasizes that. Defense is important. Ball control was his thing. When he was in the Big Ten, he was known for, you know, let's control the ball for 38 minutes a game and let the other team only have it for 22. And when you do that, you control the tempo and every other part of the game. So since he's always believed in that kind of football, that's what you expect. But it's also what Nebraska is expecting. And maybe he comes out and 4 wide receivers and tries to throw a bit. So we just don't know yet. There's going to be some trickery in there, we think. But you have to think, since it's worked for him and since he tried to install it at Arkansas, that run game will be very important.
22 super seniors on the team, the most in the country. How much do you think that eases a transition of a new coaching staff, already having those veterans there?
Yeah, he has said repeatedly in press conferences that he has several coaches on the field. I mean, some of these guys have been there 6 years now. You know, Jake Hansen had to redshirt 1 year because of an ACL, and so now he gets this 6th year as a super senior. He's seen it all. He's been in several defensive schemes. He knows every call. And so you would expect a coach to really love to come in, to have guys who have been through it. They've been through 6 camps. They understand how it works. They understand what's expected on Saturdays, and they can pass that along to their teammates.
Be year 3 for Brandon Peters. What do you think he needs to do to have a successful season?
I mean, that's another guy you think, you know, he had 3 years at Michigan, now 3 years at Illinois. He's been through it all. He had to start as a freshman at Michigan in 4 games after an injury. He has seen every corner of football. And so you think back to some of the senior years that quarterbacks have had at Illinois in the past. I mean, Nathan Schillhouse, his best year by far was 2013, his final season. It's happened for other quarterbacks as well. So, you know, you would hope to see this offense be a click for him, that it's a moment where he has the offense he's always wanted to run and has the experience to know how to do it. And that would be what leads this offense.
Do you think he's a good fit, given what we know from Tony Peterson and the way that he wants to run an offense?
I would think so. I mean, given what Peterson's past is and given what offenses Bielema has given in the past, you would think that would be the case. You know, in the last offense for Rod Smith, his best season as a coordinator was when they had A.J. Bush at quarterback, who fit exactly what they wanted to do. It seems that Brandon Peters fits exactly what these coaches have done in the past. Again, we might see some surprises. We might see some different wrinkles and things, so we don't exactly know yet. But theoretically, this would be an offense that's the best fit for Peters in his career.
Sure. Now, I want to ask you about some other potential starters as well. I think specifically wide receiver and running back, those position groups, it could really be a toss-up, I think.
Yeah, I would think so. Wide receiver is the biggest change, and Coach Bielema has acknowledged that in press conferences, that they have 8 new guys since the spring in the wide receiver room. They kind of have 8 guys who went through spring ball and 8 guys who arrived this summer. So that's going to be a big difference. Potential starters, I would think the main 3 receivers should be Brian Hightower, Donnie Navarro, and then likely Isaiah Williams, who has switched over from quarterback to wide receiver. He fits that slot receiver role so well. That's the kind of athlete he is. So You would think they would want Hightower to be the outside, the taller receiver. They would want Donnie to be the do all things receiver, and they would expect Isaiah Williams to maybe be that slot guy who can get him the ball in space and see what he can do.
Sure. Do you think this can be a breakout year for Isaiah Williams? We've only seen him. He's only showed us at the quarterback position, but I think there might be a lot of questions with his in the receiver position.
Definitely, he has. That's the interesting thing about players not having to use a year of eligibility last year, is that he's a third-year player, but he's really a freshman by eligibility. So he would have 4 years to play this wide receiver position. He had offers from Clemson to Alabama to Ohio State to play one of these positions. Maybe they offered him as a wide receiver, maybe they offered him as a defensive back. But if he had offers from all these programs in the country and now he's playing wide receiver from Illinois and he's in his third season of college football, you would expect him to have a breakout kind of season.
Sure. And how about the running back position? Because I think they're one of the deepest on the team.
Definitely. I think it's the deepest position. You have Chase Brown was a third-team All-Big Ten player last year. You have Mike Epstein, who has, I think he's something like 34th on the all-time rushing list at Illinois because he's been here a while and he's had some good moments apart from the injuries. Bret Bielema's brought in his own guy, Chase Hayden, who was his starter as a freshman in his final year at Arkansas, and he's now rejoined his coach. And then you also have Reggie Love, who was the highest rated recruit in the 2020 class. He's in his second year. He had all kinds of good offers. He's maybe the highest rated recruit in that room. Second year player, he could surprise. So they have a lot of depth there, and they have a lot of different ways they could go. I think Chase Brown should be the starter. He was the starter last year. He had the most yards. He was third team All Big Ten. But new coach, new staff, we will see.
Yeah, who knows? And especially at running back, offensive line, very deep position groups. But where's the weakest position group or area for this team?
It's probably at safety because there's just so many question marks. The scheme is going to be a little different. These safeties will not do what Lovie Smith's safeties did. And so you don't really know who the starters are going to be. There are other questions at other positions. Wide receiver, there's so many new players. You don't know. Defensive line with these outside linebackers that, they were defensive ends last year and they're outside linebackers this year. You don't exactly know what they're going to do. So there's some thin spots, but safety is probably the biggest question mark. They have a different kind of thing they want their safeties to do, and we don't exactly know who they're going to use to do it.
Sure. And this freshman class isn't necessarily a stacked class like we've seen in the past, but do you think there's anybody that could surprise us this year? Or, well, maybe we'll count the red shirts too as well.
Sure. I think wide receiver Pat Bryant has been mentioned a lot by the coaches. In the media day press conference, Bret Bielema says, his exact quote was, he'll do some wow things, and then he'll do some wow things like, oh, hey, kid, you got a lot to learn. But they need an impact guy there. He's a taller receiver. He's, can go across the middle and has really good hands. And so I think somebody like Pat Bryant could really, really surprise. You also might see some freshmen used on the defensive line. You might see Ced McConnell. He's from Atlanta. He enrolled early. He went through spring ball, and they might be ready to use him right away on the defensive line.
All right, we'll turn our focus to Nebraska now. Do you think this is a winnable game for Illinois?
It's fascinating, right? Illinois went to Nebraska and blew them out last year. That was tied to 5 turnovers. Anytime you're +5 in turnovers, you're probably going to win a football game. They were able to take the ball away from. Nebraska wasn't playing Adrian Martinez. They were playing their freshman quarterback McCaffrey in that game. He made a lot of mistakes. Illinois made him pay, and it was a win going away. For Nebraska, it is the hottest of hot seats for Scott Frost. He has to win immediately. Now there's NCAA investigation about practice time and use of analysts and everything else, and there's so much swirling around their program. So it's going to be fascinating. If Illinois were to win this game on Saturday, the seat could not be any hotter for Frost. Conversely, if Nebraska wins the game and they're currently favored in it, it doesn't mean much. It's just a first step for them, and for Bret Bielema, it's just a first game to, try and set the tone for his program. So there's a lot more pressure on Nebraska than there is on Illinois.
Sure. Well, I think, too, this is probably one of the most hyped football games that there's been in this program. I mean, we're coming off a pandemic year where people weren't able to come and watch the team. It's a new head coach. You know, tailgating is allowed again. I think a win might be really important to make sure that fans keep coming in the stands.
It could be great momentum, and you will not see, I mean, in the last 5 years, there hasn't been an Illinois football game that's been more the focal point of the college football world than this one. It's week 0. This was supposed to be in Ireland. That's why it's being played a week early. It's really the only game on. People are starved for college football. So every national analyst who is on Twitter will be tweeting about Illinois football for 3 hours, you know, for the first time maybe ever on Saturday. So you know, if you come up with a big win, if you come up with big plays, you show something different than last year, it could really build some national momentum.
All right, Robert, thank you so much, as always, for joining us again. We're looking forward to another great year. You can find more of Robert's content on IlliniBoard.com, and make sure to tune in every Sunday at 10 o'clock as we break down every Illinois game for the seasons ahead. Robert, thanks.
Thanks.